My 33 female husband, 36 male, may have cheated on me with my dead best friend and had an affair baby, plus update. Original post. I don't even know where to start. The past 6 months have been an absolute mess and it only seems to be getting worse. My best friend since elementary school, who I'll call Alice, passed away in February from cancer. She had a 2-year-old daughter who went into the custody of her mom, Alexis, after she passed away. Last month, Alexis showed up on our doorstep unannounced, telling my husband he needs to take responsibility for his child and either take custody or start finally paying child support. She says that Alice had told her when her daughter was born who the father was, but didn't want anything to do with him. To answer the inevitable, Alice was a traveling nurse and made a lot of money, which is the only reason I can think of for why she didn't go for child support. During this conversation, my husband had the worst panic attack he's ever had, so we had to end the conversation before I could get more details. My husband's story is, I don't even know. He said that Alice's daughter is probably his, but that it isn't what I think. Almost 3 years ago, we threw a large housewarming party as we just moved into our dream home, after I finally finished residency and was set to make real money for once. Alice was in town and set to be at the party, but I was called into work before she got there. I didn't get back until after 3 a.m. Party was winding down, my husband was passed out upstairs and Alice has already left the party, which at the time I did find strange as we hadn't seen each other in months. My husband claims he woke up in the middle of the night to Alice on top of him, but he passed out again before he could say anything. He claims he never told me because he was worried I wouldn't believe him, which I don't know if I do. He showed me some texts he sent his best friend the next day asking for his advice about him thinking someone violated him. But if he cheated, he could have had that conversation as evidence, especially since he never said Alice specifically. Ever since the party, he has been very distant with Alice, and after she had her daughter, he would even find excuses not to be around the house when she would visit at all. I don't know if that's because he cheated or if Alice did actually violated him and this was his trauma response. Honestly, Reddit, I don't know what to do. I've known Alice since we were children, and she had never come across as that kind of person. But I've also known my husband for over a decade, and he's not once ever given the inclination of a cheater. He's an attractive guy, and I've seen the looks he gets at the gym, and he's never even given more than a glance. What the heck should I do? How do I figure out what the truth is here, when Alice isn't even around to defend herself? She never even implied she liked my husband, let alone want to sleep with him. I told my husband he needs to get a DNA test before anything is decided on the child's part. But in the meantime, he needs to move out while I think about what I'm going to do here. Now for the top advice before reading the update. I don't know you or your marriage, but I think I would be inclined to believe and support my husband with a few details you've given. Yep, I would 100% give husband benefit of the doubt, especially if there's no DNA test. Would it be any less different if the genders were reversed? Last thing, which do you think should take to the grave? That she had an affair with, or she raped her husband? I hadn't thought about that actually. Thank you. That's a good point. She always thought I could do better than him. So if it was an affair, you would think she would have told me on her deathbed at least. Yeah, OP, I don't know you, your husband, or your best friend, but for him to literally send a text asking about rape is telling. Only a narcissist manipulator would come up with that kind of excuse for cheating. Since he doesn't seem to be that, I would genuinely believe him. Wow, OP, that is a mess. Paternity test for sure. The old text the next day sealed it for me. I think your friend took advantage of your husband. Good luck. This is the story of the day for me. I'm glad the top comments are all so understanding this time, because I've seen really similar stories on here where people absolutely crap on a woman in the same position. Basically, she cheated, dude. You need to dump her, no matter what the circumstances are. His reaction screams trauma response to me. Not being believed is a victim's worst nightmare. It's hard to be rational with these types of events, but could she have slipped him something? Did she have a history of one-night stands? Could they have been extra chummy because you weren't there and they were drinking? I find it odd she specifically asked about him the first time the baby was over, and that she didn't approve of him. On what basis? Lawyer up and then paternity test. Can you have a calm and collected conversation with your spouse that you want to believe him but you're also a mess emotionally and that you need a mediator together? Therapist. But mostly lawyer up now. I'm so sorry you're dealing with this. She was very free-spirited and loved to regale me with her stories of being out on the road. She was very pretty, so you can imagine she didn't do without when she wanted. As for them being chummy, I would have said no if you'd asked me in June. He was always nice to her, but she didn't like him much. I find it odd she specifically asked about him the first time the baby was over and that she didn't approve of him. On what basis? She knew I dreamed of being a doctor and was going places in life, while my husband, from all outward appearances, doesn't work that kind of job. He does contract work for companies and a government in project planning. She figured I could and should have done better. Lawyer up and then paternity test. Thank you, I appreciate it. My husband is dealing with the DNA stuff and should be contacting a lawyer as well. I'm not sure yet on a therapist, but I'll likely need one eventually. Now for the update. After talking with you, I've come to the realization that my husband is being truthful. My best friend forced herself on him. Several people pointed out that with Alice not liking my husband, if it was an affair, she would have told me when she was dying, if only to separate us. You're absolutely right. I was there in the room while she passed. I held her hands for days. We talked about so much. If it was just an affair, she would have told me. But if she violated my husband, she wouldn't have said a word. That's the type of thing horrible people take to the grave. I've also come to the realization that I made a terrible mistake asking my husband to leave for a few days while I gather my thoughts. Not to make excuses, but losing my best friend to cancer, a long cancer fight at that, was brutal. To say that I was devastated wouldn't do it justice. That it happened only 6 months ago, I'm still feeling it every day. So to have this thrown on me, it's like I'm losing her all over again. Either she betrayed me and slept with my husband, or she betrayed me and raped my husband. Not only have I lost her, but now I've lost the good memories, an entire lifetime's worth. It was impossible for me to look at him and not also see her, and be stuck with the horror and realization of that loss all over again. I felt I needed to be able to break down, grieve, and think without the fresh wave of loss I got every time I saw him. It was wrong of me to ask him to leave, you're right though, and as of a few minutes ago, I've righted this wrong. I called my husband. I apologized, told him I believe him, and begged him to come home. He'll be here in half an hour at most, and I'm going to support my husband the way I know he would have supported me. I've been an off and on Reddit user for several years, and sometimes the advice given on subs like these can be a bit hit or miss, but today you guys did good. You've helped me realize not only that I was wrong, and being stupid at that, but that I was hurting the person that needed me the most. I was selfish. I have no idea what we're going to do as far as the potential daughter is concerned, but I assure you we'll deal with it together. It's going to take a lot of time, and probably a lot of therapy to grieve this new loss. I feel numb now, as though I'll never cry again. My best friend violated my husband, which means she was no friend of mine. She flaunted it, coming to my house, sitting with me and gabbing. She brought her child here, trying to rub it in his face right in front of me. She tortured the man I loved, and I was an unknowing party to it. I feel sick to my stomach over how many times she came over, just to hold it over him. I'm honestly at a loss on how to make that up to him. If you all have any ideas, please feel free to give them to me. I think I'll need all the help I can get. Tomorrow, I'm going to take a leave of absence from work, just until we can figure out our next steps and we can get our heads on straight. Thank you, everyone. Last story. Update. I, male 28, know that my son isn't mine, but my wife, female 26, doesn't think that I do. I've been married to my wife for 3 years and together for 5. Our son just turned 2 in early June, and to put it bluntly, he looks biracial. His skin is darker than I thought it would have been. He has curly hair when we most certainly don't, and his features just don't look like the standard white people which we are. He's such a beautiful boy, he just doesn't look 100% white. I asked my wife a few days after his birthday if she thought our son looked white. She said yes, and asked if I'm accusing her of something. I said no, because I genuinely wasn't. I just was wondering. I know genetics can be weird sometimes. We fought and I apologized, but I wasn't able to shake the feeling. So I did a crappy thing and got a test done behind my wife's back. The results came in a few days ago and I'm not my son's dad. I feel conflicted about my son. I love him, but knowing that he isn't mine is leaving a sour taste in my mouth. Our son definitely prefers me and he's my world, but he's just not biologically mine. I don't know what to make of my feelings. I'm a mix of emotions about my wife. I don't know how to talk to her. I'm angry, confused, and feeling very, very betrayed. I'm heartbroken too. I still love her. She's working at the moment and I don't want to disturb her at her office, but I feel like I'm going to explode. This is all very difficult for me to process, and I can't. I can't think of when my wife cheated. We always had each other's locations for safety purposes, and I can't think of any suspicious friends that she has or had. We go on regular dates and our bedroom is a den. We were also trying for a baby around that time, so I don't know when she cheated on me or why. Ever since we married, she's been over the moon, constantly showing off her ring and talking about me. She's like a teenager in love. How do I tell her that I know, or get that ball rolling? I don't know what I want to do yet, as stupid as that sounds. I've been stewing on it for a few days, but I still love her so much. Maybe someone can knock some sense into me? I need help. Now for the top advice before reading the update. Just say, I had a paternity test done and it shows I'm not his father. That ought to start off a conversation. Take it from there. Yeah, that's a good icebreaker. You place the results of the test in front of her and you say, we need to have a conversation, and go from there. You could express your concerns about baby being switched at birth and request your wife obtain a test to ensure. You didn't want to say anything to her unless it came back as it did. Let's hope it isn't like another Reddit person who found out their child was swapped at birth. That was a ride. This is where you need to be strategic, not emotional. I'd get a second test, just to be sure. And I might even have the kid tested against her DNA if you can obtain it, as it would rule out a hospital mix-up. Super rare, but it does happen. Then talk with a lawyer and probably pull half of any shared accounts before confronting her. Yes, check with a lawyer before yanking money. The reality is, either person on a joint account can empty it. If you are reliant on a partner who has been proven scientifically untrustworthy, take steps to protect yourself. Yep, if she cheated, the level of deception she had to pull off to try and pass a biracial child off to two white parents is astronomical. OP, do a second test and plan before you confront. Does he actually know her ethnic background though? Because most people assume that I am white, but my father's family is Puerto Rican and my abuelita is biracial. Her mom was black. One of my cousins had a biracial-looking baby, even though she looks white, and her husband is actually as white bread as they come. It's rare, but it does happen. Genetics are wild, and they aren't necessarily passed on 50-50. We had something similar happen to a family friend. They appear white, but when they had a baby, the baby wasn't white appearing. But the baby was 100% theirs. Turns out, way back in the woman's family tree, a great-great-great-great-grandmother was black. But the genes were completely dormant for years. You mentioned that you were trying. Did you do any IVF? I just watched a documentary where a fertility doctor switched his sperm for any male patient's sperm. Also, there could have been a mix-up there. Also, someone said about a switch at the hospital. Give her the results and ask her to start explaining. Most importantly, talk to a lawyer and immediately start separating any and all financial accounts. As for the whole location being on thing, yeah, someone can leave their phone in one place, while they physically go to another place and then come back to pick up the phone. So you can't rely on that. If you have will and determination, you can figure out anything. Edit. I'm becoming overwhelmed with the comments. I'm sorry. I wanted to reply to a few, but I can't. I just wanted to say thank you for commenting and that I also hope our baby was just swapped. As terrible as that sounds. Our baby didn't look biracial at birth. As he got older, he started developing features that didn't look entirely like ours. If our son's skin didn't darken over time, I don't think I ever would have questioned anything. The other features can be explained as a fun little surprise or a few generation hops maybe. I know that genetics can be weird. Now for the update. Getting the bad news out the way first. My son isn't mine. I feel devastated and will be divorcing my wife. My wife and I had talked about our son a few days after my post, and my wife cracked under the pressure. She admitted to cheating on me without me even mentioning the test I had gotten done. All I asked was if she really thought our son looked white. I mean it when I say that if his skin never got darker, I wouldn't have known. She cried a lot and begged for forgiveness and told me that we can all still be a happy family. But my image of her shattered right then and there. I'm going through heartbreak, so forgive any mistakes. I'm currently living with my parents. I asked her when she even found a time to cheat on me, and she told me that she would leave her phone in a location and use another. She told me that cheating was a mistake and an accident. But how was it a mistake if you had it so planned out? We were trying for a baby around then, and she told me that she couldn't handle the pressure of it all and just wanted to escape. She didn't escape very well if she still got pregnant and acted like we were perfect. Thank you again to everyone. My wife will now be known as my ex-wife. I apologize to anyone who had hope and thought it was a baby switched at birth situation. I'm somewhat happy it wasn't, because that would be terrible, but extremely disappointed because that means he really isn't mine. There won't be any more DNA tests because she admitted to everything and showed me some text messages. There won't be any more updates from me either because I just want to move on with my life. I'll get everything sorted and figure out the whole custody thing. Thanks again, everyone. Goodbye. If she left her phone somewhere so he wouldn't know she was elsewhere, that's not an accident or a mistake. It's just crappy purposeful behavior. Sucks for that poor kid. I hope things turn out okay for him and Opie. Very much so. It was a deliberate decision. It was a choice, not a mistake. It was only a mistake because she got caught. I asked her when she even found a time to cheat on me, and she told me that she would leave her phone in a location and use another. Cold and calculated. But it was an accident, like stubbing your toe. She was under a lot of stress, and I don't know about you, but when I want to relieve stress, I would create a deep, dark secret that would destroy my family if anyone found out. When I'm under a lot of stress, I can accidentally eat a whole bag of chips. Similar kind of accident, fewer consequences. Paternity fraud should be a crime. Careful, or you're going to get downvoted to hell by people who think that men's rights are a joke. But yes, it should be a crime. Mandatory paternity testing at birth. This will solve infidelity in bad hospitals that switch babies. There is no accusation of cheating as the guy has no say in it. It's just standard protocol. Like, it's not like you get angry going through TSA, essentially being accused of being a terrorist.